Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move it.
And a second? I'll second. So moved by Mrs. Dally, second by Mr. Wyndham. Student Board Advisory vote, all in favor?
Yes.
Fantastic. Board member vote, all in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Oh, hearing none. Perfect. And then I have a report out on closed session actions. 3 actions that we took during closed session. First one, we approved the resolution number 18, release of temporary certificated employees by a unanimous roll call vote of 6-0. We approved resolution number 19, which is the resolution of non-reelection of certificated employees by unanimous roll call vote of 6-0. And we approved school safety plans by unanimous roll call vote of 6-0. All right, with that, it's comments from the floor. This is where you're allowed 3 minutes per item, up to 21 minutes, and this is items not on the agenda. I do have one card. Jacob L. would like to talk on school safety. Jacob, welcome to the meeting.
Hello. Hi. Good evening, VUSD Board and Superintendent. I'm Jacob, and I'm a 7th grader at Sierra Vista K-8 school. I'm concerned about the safety at my school and possibly other schools in the district. Yesterday, when I was going from period 2 to 3 and packing up, another student pushed me into a desk and put a gun on the back of my head, which at the time I did not know was a cap gun. I was petrified. I thought he was holding a real handgun to my head. I thought for sure I was done for. I could have gotten seriously hurt and or died. I'm currently concerned because there's no security or police on my campus, and I'm worried that there are not the proper policies and precautions in place to keep students at my school safe. I believe every student has the right to feel safe at school and should never have to experience the traumatic event and feelings I did yesterday. I'm asking that you take my experience into consideration for improving our school's safety policies and procedures, especially at Sierra Vista, to ensure a better school environment for everyone. Thank you.
Jacob, thank you very much for speaking. It takes a lot to do that. Dr. Shamiya, anything?
I was not aware of this incident. I'm definitely going to look into it. And maybe Mr. Santapadre, if you can talk to Jacob and his mom after, or if they want to stay, that would be great.
Great.
Thank you.
But thank you again, Jacob. It takes a lot to be able to stand up
Yes.
and do that. Certainly appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
If they understand that we can't do it.
Fantastic. So, Jacob, just for your information, since you came here, you don't have just 6 quiet people up here. Because it's not on the agenda, we're really not allowed to engage in it. So that's why Mr. Santapadre will talk to you afterwards, and he'll be able. If it was on the agenda, we could have a conversation with you. So please don't take our silence as we don't care. We definitely do, and we'll make sure that we do follow up on that. Okay? Perfect. Thank you. Item number 11, superintendent's comments and correspondence.
Yes, I would like to ask Miss Elaine Kong, Director of Communications. She's actually going to give a couple of updates for me on some events. It's been a busy week, and she's going to share a video with us, right? Did you get it working?
The tech guys are working on it right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Good evening.
Do you want to, should we go on to something else and come back to
to
this? Till we can get the video?
I think it's going to be done shortly. They're just going upstairs and grabbing it.
Okay.
I was going to talk about the other things you want me to talk about,
Okay.
and then they can play the
Okay.
video after.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board President, Board members, Dr. Shamiya. So the first thing I want to tell you about is the Movers and Shakers Breakfast Summit that was hosted by the Chamber of Commerce. That was last Wednesday, and it actually went incredibly well. It was an event where all of the movers and shakers really came together from Vacaville to kind of get a year in review of what Vacaville is doing, not only the school district, but also the city. I worked together with Wayne Covington, who is from the city, to put together a video, the one that Superintendent Shamiya wanted me to show you. And it really just talks about all of the different kids and the different programs that we have here at Vacaville Unified. So it was received really well. Jane and I sat at a table, and there was actually a few women that were there. One of them was a pediatrician, and she started tearing up. So that was good. It was received well, is what it seemed like. So it was a good thing to see that. And then also, we had the Realtors Luncheon yesterday. That was also something that I've been working on lately, and that's been something that I've been really proud of because we just got a lot of different groups from different schools together to make sure that we really show the realtors what's happening in our school districts, just to make them more aware about all the different things that we have. I actually have a few flyers that I want to pass out to you as well. So those flyers that I'm passing out to you were given to the realtors just to give them a better idea of the high schools as well as VUSD facts that are happening right now. It's talking about all of the different programs that we have as well as different numbers like graduation rates. So they have the most updated information. We found that realtors are really the ones that are our first line of defense when it comes to new families that are moving into our area. So we really wanted to push out all of our information to them and just give them a glimpse of what student life is like on our campuses. So we actually had 10 booths there as well. So we had CTE, Auto Shop, Measure A, Robotics, Spice, ACE, Vaca High, Link Crew, mental health clinicians, student nutrition, and Vaca High Floral, all there representing. They actually made this bouquet, which is just one of, I think, 16 of them that they made. The big one that's out there when you're walking inside, that was also made by the floral team, all just to give them a glimpse of what's happening on our campuses. We had 65 people in total come, which was much more than we were actually expecting. When Jane and I first met to discuss the Realtors Luncheon, it was going to be like 10 people. And then it started growing and growing. And then the last few days, we really just got a lot more people that wanted to show up and really learn about our school district, which is a great thing. I want to do a really big thank you to Kathleen Ramos. She is the one, she's a realtor, and she's the one that really helped me get everybody there to really just inform them. And then another really big thank you to Teresa, Rayanne, and Lori. They were the ones that helped me set up everything for all of the kids and make sure that everything was just there and ready to go. So a really big thank you to them, because without them, this event definitely would not have been as successful as it was. We've actually been getting a lot of people emailing me saying that they want it again next year, which is a really good thing. Ed and Jane spoke as well, and that was really received very well. The Vacaville Reporter did an article on it, praising us about all of the different things that were happening. Ed talked about, what was it called? The California School Dashboard, which is also something that they can use to help persuade their families into moving here to Vacaville, which is another really good thing. Dr. Shamia talked about her personal experience moving here to Vacaville, and I think that was also received very well. And then we also gave bags out that was filled with that information along with other information so that they can have it and then pass that along to their clients as well. And that was also sent as a JPEG online for them to have. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was the town hall, which...
Elaine, can you mention the food?
Oh, yes, of course.
What was for lunch and who served it?
Yes, so we had Vaca High Culinary make most of the food. So they had homemade pesto pasta, which was homemade noodles, and then also homemade pesto sauce as well. They made the salad dressing was also homemade. They did a chicken breast that was filled with tomatoes and cheese and all this other good stuff. And then they did homemade bread, which is like one of my favorite things in the whole entire world. And it was amazing. They also did, what else am I missing?
Dessert. They
The
had
dessert.
great
Lucy
desserts.
Wood did the desserts. They had cheesecake there. They had other little like finger foods for cheesecake and for other desserts. So it was just phenomenal.
Made and served by students. And
yes.
the Wilsey Wood Singers sang the national anthem. And there was a jazz band from Vaca High playing. They were amazing too at the beginning. So a lot of great, just showing off our amazing students.
Yeah, so that was the whole point, was just to really give them a glimpse into everything that we're doing. Am I forgetting anything?
I think that was it.
That was it. Yeah.
Food's one of the most important parts.
Yes,
Thank you.
very true. That was like the key of everything. Everybody commented on how the food was just amazing. All the realtors actually stood up at the end and gave Angie Rowe, the culinary teacher, and her class a big round of applause because they just did such an amazing job. And then also we had the town hall last night that was with Solano County Public Health, just to really explain to our community the facts that are happening here in Solano County and the reason why we're keeping schools open. We had Dr. Bela Mateus speak, as well as Superintendent Shamia, just really answering questions from our Facebook Live, as well as from the audience that were there, just to really give them a better explanation about keeping schools open, as well as making sure they know the facts to the myths, because there's a lot of myths that are out there. We've been getting a lot of emails about those myths, so just to really debunk those. And then we also had, so this was Facebook Live, and it was also sent out to all of the teachers, principals, and family members that weren't able to attend through an email and through text message as well. That way they can get that same information. And it was about an hour and 30 minutes of information, so they can watch that on their own time, because that is quite a long period of time to sit down and watch something. That Facebook Live has over 11,000 views on it already. So it is reaching a lot of people that are here in Vacaville that need that information. And then also just a really big shout out to our tech department. They were really the ones that made sure that that happened with the city, because we don't have the capability to do live with the technology that we do have here. Our tech department worked with Wayne Covington from the city to really make sure that it was spotless. So our live stream didn't have any cut-ins. It was very smooth. People were able to comment live and ask questions. Rayanne did a great job filtering through all those questions to make sure that the doctor, as well as Superintendent Shamia, got all those questions that related to their field. That way they can answer them on the spot. I also passed around the microphone and I disinfected it in between every person so they can all ask questions as well. They answered, you guys probably answered over, I think, 75 questions total just in that hour. And he also gave a 30-minute presentation just talking about the different things that represent the schools. So why we keep schools open, you know, why bullying against Asian Americans is not acceptable, especially when it relates to coronavirus. So it was a lot of really good information that was given out that night. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is the video
ready?
okay? We can move on, and when is it ready? Yeah. Is that a yes? Oh, thank you, Andrew. Sound.
Students from pre-K to high school graduation are taught they are and will always be much more than just a diploma. With Measure A funding, we're upgrading facilities, building new classrooms, and our students are achieving higher than ever before.
This is the Vacaville Unified School District.
We are the second largest school district in Solano County.
And the 97th largest school district in California.
Our more than 13,000 students are soaring to new heights.
We're considered a destination district.
In the past 5 years, we've taken in more than 800 students from surrounding communities.
We believe all of our students deserve all of our efforts.
And technology is the future.
In Solano County, we are one of the only districts with one-to-one technology.
Meaning, from kindergarten to high school graduation, every one of our students will receive an assigned device.
Our focus is each individual student and their unique needs.
Last year alone, our teachers produced 130 AP Scholars.
Meaning we score 3 or better on 4 or more AP tests.
We outperform other Californians in advanced placement tests.
Not just that, but we also beat out the world in AP passing rates.
The reason why we offer more than 20 AP classes.
We are more than just a diploma.
At WUSD Wood alone, we've completed 430 college-level courses.
But not every student chooses college.
At VUSD, we recognize that we are CTE strong.
Last year, we had more than 180 students recognized by the state as CTE completers.
We have 13 career technical pathways for students like me,
who learn our best outside a traditional classroom.
Whoever said young people don't have life skills, we want to prove you wrong. In auto, we learn the ins and outs of a vehicle. Every year, we fix a car and give it to those who need it most.
In culinary, we learn to serve food to hundreds of people.
It's not just at the high school level that we are achieving.
ACE teaches us to be lifelong learners.
We provide an alternative learning environment for grades K through 6.
Our parents have volunteered for almost 4,000 hours this year.
Did you know that Sierra Vista is now a kindergarten through 8th grade school?
With almost 600 students enrolled.
At Fairmount, we focus on science.
We want our students to be aware of the world around them and to be critical thinkers and creative problem solvers.
Showing that alternative learning styles work.
El año pasado, 77 de nuestros estudiantes de prepa recibieron su sello bilingüe.
Con la ayuda del programa Inmersión en Mano. Espero que en el futuro yo crezca y sea como ellos.
Our students who are achieving so much are
English learner,
musicians and performers.
But most importantly, we are tomorrow's leaders.
We are the future. We can make a difference.
When I grow up, I want to be a 5-star general because I want to make the world a better place.
I want to be an NBA basketball player.
When I grow up, I want to be a teacher so I could be creative.
Because of Vacaville Unified School District.
Because of Vacaville Unified School District.
Thanks to Vacaville Unified,
I got my bachelor's degree in nursing from San Diego State University, and I just got an offer to work in a hospital.
I'm a UC Berkeley Cal graduate, and I'm on the road to medical school.
Because of my dedicated teachers, I've actually decided to pursue a career in teaching, something that I'm very passionate about, and I think I can definitely attribute to the wonderful teachers I had growing up.
I live in Oakland now and work as a project engineer, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
I get to give back to my community by serving delicious homemade food to our awesome students.
The educators and staff of the Vacaville Unified School District are the people that make this community a brighter place to live. We appreciate the trust that the community has given us with their children. It's both our honor and our privilege to educate the youth of Vacaville.
You might recognize a few people at the end there. Thank you all so much for being a part of that. I know it was not something you guys wanted to do, so I appreciate it.
What? You did a phenomenal job on that video, and yeah, that's for you. And that Realtors Breakfast, you really knocked it out of the park, Elaine. It was
Thank
your
you.
idea, and you pulled all the players together. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have one more quick update. Manolo Garcia is going to give a really quick update on I'm drawing a blank, the verification.
Dependent verification review.
Dependent verification review, which was something that's mandated by CalPERS. And you can
Yes, correct. So every 5 years, we are required to do a dependent verification review as we go in the next open enrollment period to an online platform where employees will be able to select their medical benefit plans. We're required to do this. It's been about 5 years, maybe a little longer since we did the last one. So let me back up. Thank you, Superintendent Shamiya, esteemed board members. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. So wanted to give you a quick update on where we are. It's not as exciting. I too wish I were a 5-star general. That's sounds very exciting. Certainly can change the world. But I believe directors of HR can do that as well. So we had almost 1,200 benefit eligible employees who needed to complete the dependent verification review. At this point, we have fewer than 200 employees left. So we've made tremendous gains, and we're almost at the finish line. Almost, we want to get 100% of our employees completed. We have 91 incomplete reviews, meaning that when they met with the American Fidelity reps, they had most of their paperwork, birth certificates, things like that, to verify their dependents. So those are almost completed. So of the less than 200, half of those just need to complete part of their dependent review, so they're almost there. But one of the tremendous benefits also is that we've identified 284 dependents that we've dropped that were no longer eligible as a result of this process for benefits. So that hopefully will result in a cost savings for the district. Not sure exactly what that'll translate to in savings, but we expect to get some cost savings from that. So the process has gone fairly well. There were quite a few questions at the outset, but we did our best to answer those, and it's going pretty well. We're going to be meeting with American Fidelity to talk about some additional dates to see if we can complete these 200 employees that we have left. So that's what's coming up ahead. Any questions?
Quick question.
Yes.
Do we have to do that as well? Be verified, since some of us do receive
Since
benefits?
you do, yes. You should be on that list as well. So you
I'm
will
on
be
your list, am I?
contacted to complete the dependent verification review for us. So I'll make sure that Daniel and Cedric reach out to you to do that.
Great.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks
you
for your work.
very
Thank you.
much. And that concludes Superintendent's report.
Okay, great. Board member comments and correspondence. All right, give me a second here. There you go, Tracy.
I just want to just say thank you again to Elaine and to Ed and to Jane. It was just such a cool day to see our students and teachers and staff, our mental health clinic, everyone was there and just represented on such a cool level. It was just, I felt like we were really truly at a professional luncheon, and it was like not just your average school district. It was, I wish we had more pictures. You could just see it. It was not only super classy, professional, but the presentations were wonderful. Everything was great. I got goosebumps too with the national anthem. It was the coolest rendition I've heard in a long time. And I also just want to say thank you to the county for being great partners. I'm really proud of how proactive we've been. I have friends throughout the county who are like, well, how come our district's not doing it? And I'm like, I don't know, call your superintendent. So again, we're leading the charge and being proactive, and I really appreciate that. And I will take your phone calls every day, Elaine, because I thought it was really great to hear that we do not have a soap shortage in this district. So hopefully people will feel comfortable. But I'm just proud that you're being proactive and trying to be compassionate about how everybody stands and their concern for the safety of their kids. So great job, team.
Michael.
So several things, but I'll try to be quick. Want to thank the chamber for organizing the Movers and Shakers event. I always like getting out and meeting new people, so there was a good opportunity there. That actually fed into addressing some of the conversations that were brought up there. I thought that the Realtors Luncheon was fantastic. And watching the video, for me personally, there's not one school in this district that I would ever have a problem sending my kid to. The only program that I actually had a concern was actually Spice, is where I sent my son, but for personal reasons. But I think that so I think that's really, there's a lot of great things here that's going on. And I think that we're definitely on the right direction with engaging the community, getting the word out there through different ways to let them know really what we're working on here, and where we're still going and where we need help as we go through that process. Had the privilege of going to a couple classes this morning to participate in Read Across America, and I was explaining, trying to explain to third and fourth graders about being an elected official. And when I told them that they were my boss, I got fired. So that was pretty funny. That was actually pretty good.
Is that on video?
I wish. Yeah, it would have been viral. But I think that one of the best questions that I had was what's your favorite part of your job? And it really getting out in front of our kids and interacting with them and seeing their genuine enthusiasm and innovative minds and curiosity. And character, like it's pretty cool. And I'm very happy to be raising my family here, and again coming back where I came from. And I think part of that is again a lot of the great educators that we have. One of them we just lost, so I want to send my condolences out to family and friends of Rudy Montalvo. He was a PE teacher of mine, and I'll save personal stories, but he was the best old school guy that we had. So last thing is just the announcement. This is for the board and really anybody out in the public that's interested. Starting on April 20th, it'll be located in Solano County School Board Association, or Solano County Office of Education. The Solano County School Board Association will be having one of 3 series of a conference, an interactive conference that's basically looking at how policies influence student achievement. So I'm really looking forward to trying to get as many community partners and our elected officials together to go through this process and have a good, insightful time. So thank you.
All right, Mr. Wyndham.
So I think at this point I'm probably just echoing what was already said, but I got to do it anyway. I just have to really give kudos to everybody for the Realtors lunch. I mean, that was amazing. And what was great about it is not just, to me, it brought together two different aspects of community education that we don't always get to do it simultaneously. And one is being able to get up and Jane and Ed being able to really educate people on what we do and the things that we have going in the district, but then for them to actually see what the kids are doing with the floral arrangements and the culinary program. It was really fantastic, and I hope we continue to do more of those things, because I mean, there's a lot of great things going on in this district, and you know, it's one of those things where people don't necessarily know unless they have a student that goes to that school that's in that particular program sometimes. But I think it's really important for the people like the realtors who are out there in the community to know all of the great things that are going on and be able to pass that along. So that was really awesome. And I also just want to really kind of give a shout out to all of our staff dealing with, you know, the concerns around the coronavirus and having the community kind of working with the county and having the community education, because I think that's important. There's a lot of myths out there. A lot of folks are concerned about it, and I know it's put a lot of extra burden on staff with things they have to do around sanitizing areas more than they probably normally would. And I just want to recognize them, because I know that's a lot, and I'm very proud of the way the district is making sure that everybody's as safe as they can and making sure that the appropriate and accurate information's out there. So thank you.
Tracy.
I just was remiss.
You shut yourself off.
Whoops.
I got it.
It was meant to be.
There you go.
So I just want to take a quick second to thank Jacob again for coming tonight, but his mom too. And so as unfortunate as that situation was, just to echo what JJ said, I think it's really cool that a mom empowered the young man to have the courage to come and talk to us. It has triggered for me that as we talk about like safety plans and as we do the LCAP, to really like hear, we talk about bullying as adults, but it really just reminded me of like the eye of not even bullying, just inappropriate fun, or like what's appropriate where and right in context. Maybe it's a good reminder to talk to our kids and like use some learning opportunities for that. And just that I hope everybody knows that if you ever have a situation like that, we really are a district that welcomes you, and that the team of people will make sure that everybody who needs to know knows, and that things are followed up on. And I just think it was really cool that he had the courage to come. So made me sad, but I'm glad he came.
Michael.
Yeah, I just want to say, beyond the courage of him to be able to come, which I agree is kind of a big thing. I mean, I was just so struck by him saying that he thought there was a real gun to his head and that he was going to die. I mean, that is like so powerful and so scary. I mean, it's like sometimes I think we don't let ourselves really get that. And it's just such a serious thing. And you know, I think it is good to bring it to consciousness and not just let it go, because there are people that think that that's okay to do that. It's okay to make somebody think that they're going to die in a minute. I mean, it's just awful. And I'm glad that they came, and I'm glad they talked to Mr. Santa Padre, and he'll look into it. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Fantastic job over the week with everything that's going on. Didn't make the breakfast, made the lunch. Food was fantastic. Those floral arrangements, 4 or 5 guys out of there walked away going, I'm earning brownie points. They bought those things up, took them home, and they were getting brownie points from their wife at home. So the schools helped more than just a few people in that aspect. So yeah, I was in good standing, so I didn't have to get one this time. But next time, maybe. Who knows? And then the the town hall meeting was, I really enjoyed the speaker. I personally learned a bunch of things as well at the same time, and picked up some education along the way, but good job all the way around. Thank you very much. All right. With that, student board representative reports. Mr. Garcia Coley, would you like to start? And how are you this evening?
A little bit tired.
Are you?
Yeah.
All right.
And
Yeah.
Country High School has been focusing on career exploring for the past few weeks. A group of students went to Solano Community College and toured the cosmetology department as well as the entire campus. Students had opportunities to work with a Solano College graphic design professor on various projects. 20 students have completed the Stop the Bleed last week. Thanks to Sergeant Daniels for leading that today and tomorrow. Students will be completing their OSHA 10 certification with the support of Cal Inc. Coming up, Solano College Auto Tech student leadership class is putting together Solano College Auto Tech student. I can't speak today. The quarter is ending next week, and we will be having our honor roll assembly celebrations. Students will be having achievements and growth certifications. This will be followed up with an honor roll event to celebrate with parents. Student leadership class is putting together a March Madness basketball team tournament during lunchtime. The winner team will get a gift card and bragging rights.
Bragging rights. That's worth a lot. Sounds like a lot going on there. Thank you very much. Ms. Salazar, would you like to go next?
Look at you started a trend. Good evening.
Good evening.
So February 13th was our winter rally, with the theme was We Sports. Really fun to see all the students come out and participate. Gotta say, it was one of the most fun and energetic rallies that we've had in a while. February FFA Member of the Month is McKenna Caulfield. February Leaders of the Month, Ernie Rodriguez and Joey Thomas for their great work hosting the Winter Rally, and Austin Morgan for his tech help and expertise with the Winter Rally. Congratulations to this week's Senior of the Week, Kalia Lujan, Artist of the Week, Cassandra Brown, and Athlete of the Week, Chris Island. Tonight, boys tennis has a home game against Fairfield, and also tonight, girls badminton has a home game against Vintage. This Saturday is the first Super Saturday in the month of March. March 9th through 13th, there are tryouts for not only cheer, but also drill for the 2020 to 2021 team. And then Friday, March 27th is the date for this year's Morp Rally and dance with the theme of Astroworld. For future events, May 1st is the date for this year's Mr. GQ pageant, which this year's theme is The Bachelor. The quote of the day is "Never interrupt someone doing something you said you couldn't be done" by Amelia Earhart, the first female aviator to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. Thank you.
Nice job. Thank you very much. Ms. West, you're next.
You have the game. Wow. I can pull the game up if you guys want me to.
Yeah.
But if not, that's okay too. Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I have to go off my phone. So coming back from the break, Wilsey Wood has been just as busy as before. The applications for our 3 leadership classes have been turned in, and interviews are starting next week. All 3 classes had an abundance of applications, and we're very, very excited to see where this is going to take us next year. All of our student government electoral positions were running unopposed, except for one, which is the future junior class president. We had 3 young girls going for it. And I would like to offer my congratulations to Demi Rodriguez, who will become our new junior class president. As well as that, we have our musical coming up. Mary Poppins will be up next week, a week from today. I'm a little nervous, to be honest, but I'm very excited. It's at the Ulatis Theater. On Thursday night, we do have our sensory show, so if you know anyone who maybe is deaf and needs an ASL interpreter, there will be one. The house lights will be on. The mics and the music will be a little bit lower for our friends with sensitive ears, and theater etiquette will be a little bit more loose, so if people need to get up, walk around, that's great, please come. It's open to everyone. It's also cheaper than normal tickets, so maybe if you just want cheaper tickets, that works too. But then we also have our show on Friday at 7 p.m., our matinee Saturday at 1, and then our final show Saturday at 7 p.m. It's been sounding amazing. The cast looks great, does great. I'm really excited. I would love to see you guys there. I'll be down in the hole, way down in the floor, but you can wave at me. I'll wave back, I promise. Our swim team just had their first practice meet yesterday against Vaca High and Vaca Christian. Everyone did great. I heard so many positive things. People were posting about it on social media. They're all super excited. Our track and field team as well just had their first practice meet at home, and they're also doing amazing. I saw the equipment out there. They looked crazy. I don't know how they could do it, but props to them. Our badminton team has begun their practices, and their first meet will be on Tuesday next week against Vintage. Our boys basketball team, as we all know, has been on fire recently. They're in Chico right now, and I can't wait to see what happens. I promise I'm going to be looking at those scores nonstop. And we're all really hoping that their streak continues because we want to see how far we can go. This is the farthest we've ever gone, or well, they've ever gone. I haven't gone that far in basketball. It's okay. I'm like not 5'2", but it's fine. In other fun news, on March 9th, our wrestling team is having their annual banquet, and they're going to be celebrating Kylie Rivera, which placed 8th in states. She's paving the way for female wrestlers, and we could not be prouder to have her at our campus. It is absolutely amazing. She's a rock star. We love her. March 10th, our Gay Straight Alliance Club, or GSA, is having a blood donation, and there's a bunch of students around campus turning in their permission slips. We're all gearing up, ready to go, donate some of our blood to help a great cause on both sides, and everything it looks amazing so far. Our 8th grade peer review was moved, which it was supposed to be last night, but now it will be March 18th, which has then moved our poetry slam, which most kids are very looking forward to April 1st. And I promise that's not a prank, so come. And there may be pranks, but it's not a prank. So come to the poetry slam on April 1st, and that is all. Have a nice night.
Ryan, can I ask you a question? Are you in the orchestra?
I'm in the band. I'm in wind ensemble. I play the saxophone.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you'll be down in the pit then.
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. Good. All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Okay, and with that, on to 15A, the Local Control Accountability Plan. Assistant Superintendent Ed Santa Padre, will provide an update.
So Ed and I, Ed's going to do most of this, but I have a couple slides.
You're not on
So
it.
we're going to do it together. I will open it up if that's okay with you. This is kind of an update on the LCAP, but it's really more of a reflection. This is a presentation we've already shared with all staff, and our LCAP is really a 3-year plan, even though we've done kind of annual updates. So we are going into year 1. So that's what we're working on right now into next year. So what we're doing, since this is the end of a 3-year plan, we are being a little reflective and reflecting back on where we've come. And the next step, of course, is in developing the next 3-year plan, which Ed is going to talk about. And I know we have a workshop scheduled for that. So we're really going to focus on successes and challenges. So starting out as a reminder, these were what we call the LCAP goals. I really see them as more broader. They're really district priorities. We had college career readiness, providing interventions and eliminating barriers to student success, and school safety. So again, this is something we're going to look at. Do we want to revise these, refine these in any way? But to talk about some of the great news that we have going on in the district, as you all know, our enrollment is still increasing. So I think we're at about 12,900 right now, somewhere floating around there. But yeah, it's about 180, almost 200 more than what we had last year. And every year for the past really 4 years, we've seen a steady increase in our enrollment, anywhere between 50 and 200. So as we always say, that's great news. We're getting tight in our facilities, but we're excited that our enrollment is up. And a little known fact is, now it's becoming a more common fact because we're bragging about it, is that we do receive quite a few students on interdistrict transfers, 844. Of course, there's a number of those that are our dependent charters that don't have to have interdistrict transfers that come from other districts. But we only have about 175 going out. So when you look at the net of students that want to be in this district, families that choose us over other districts, I think it is pretty remarkable and something to be proud of.
And there are a lot of reasons for that. So as we look at the past 3 years, we wanted to just share some of our overarching successes and some of the challenges that we face as we go into the next LCAP. Some of our successes, student achievement. Our English scores at all levels continue to grow. So we're really proud of that. From our youngest learners through our 11th graders in the CASP testing, the scores continue to grow. We're excited about that. We have strong intervention programs. We're getting better at finding students who don't grasp a concept or need a skill, and we get it to them. Each school has a really unique fit to it. You know, we've talked a lot about choice, and as Dr. Shmiya said, we talk about the people coming in from other places, and a lot of that is the unique feel that each school has to it. When you go there, you can really sense it. Lots of signature practices, from Leader in Me at schools to AVID, robotics in several of the schools, including elementary schools, and really collaborative cultures. Teachers and staff working together for student achievement. This one I'm really proud about, the great transitions. As students move from elementary to middle, or middle to high school, or even high school to college, there's really no dropping of the ball. There's really conversations going on, and the next level doesn't have to wait 3 months to figure out what this student needs. They come with a lot of information. Some of our elementary schools even have the kids stop by there in the morning for a little bit before they go to Jepson or Vacapena to check in. And at the high school, we get information really quickly, and we can start serving students and supporting students right out of the gate. So that one's been really a great success for us. Lots of external recognitions. We have a school to watch. We have Lighthouse schools. We have AP Honor Roll. We have Larry Lexicon and the Vocabulary Bowl. Lots of recognition, and lots of choices for families. We have ACE. We have SPICE. We have K-8. There's really lots of choices that our families have, and because of all that, families really are choosing our schools. So some of our challenges, social, emotional, mental health issues. We put that number 1 on this of challenges because it is number 1 on this. It is our biggest challenge, and our staffs are doing a great job. Jane's going to talk about that in a little bit more depth, but we really see that as an issue. Increase in students qualifying for IEPs, which just is an added level of complexity and resources that we need to have. Space as we grow, we had the workshop. Space is certainly an issue that we're working on. Social media is an issue. Both students and adults and the staff all agreed with that. There's just more out there, and it's just making everything trickier. We have students with some real needs. When we talk about homelessness, there's sort of the way the state sort of counts it, and then there's really students who sometimes don't have a place to stay. And the good news is they still come to school, and so we have an opportunity, and we're taking that opportunity to support them, and we have things in place at various schools to do that. But that's really challenging and growing. Math and elementary science, we still want to continue to get better at. The jobs are changing. What we're asking our students to do, what future skills they need is changing, and so we have to adjust with that, and we have to engage students with relevant curriculum. They're looking for that, and we need to continue to do that. And then as we look at the next 3 years, what do we continue? What do we stop? What do we need to do? So mental health.
So, when Ed put mental health there as an issue, I did feel a little like we've done a lot for that. It is an issue, but I'm proud of this district and I'm proud of this board because this was something that was brought up 3 years ago and it was a concern of you as a board. And we had concerns from principals around mental health issues. And we put a lot of time and work into figuring out the puzzle of how to address it and how to fund it because these are multi-funded positions. So we now have 10 mental health clinicians for 17 school sites, which I find pretty awesome. And I think it's probably a lot of districts don't have that level of support. We also have the City of Vacaville Police Department contract that we've had for years, but I think it's good to remind people and mention because it adds to the whole picture. And what the City of Vacaville does is they oversee these interns, and there's quite a few of them. So when we look at our school sites, next slide, this is what it looks like. We have a mental health clinician, a single one serving big sites, and then we've split up the other ones to share among, big or medium-sized sites and smaller sites. But I really want to acknowledge the board on this. And as we go into the next 3 years of the LCAP, we're going to talk about, hopefully, obviously, continuing this. And do we want to enhance it? Do we want to do what we want to do around that or expand it?
So then we wanted to talk about some of our outcomes. And even at the elementary schools, we wanted to do this because we want them to see the foundation that they build, the middle school, the transitions that they teach, and then we see what the outcomes are that we have. So these are some of our outcomes from last year. And we always talk about college and career, and we wanted to start with career this year. And you'll see why in a minute. We had 186 students complete what the state says is a CTE completer, and we had 75 more of them who complete what we say is a completer, which is much more rigorous. It's all those things on the right. To be a completer, to actually get the cord at graduation, you need to do all of those things. And we really believe that our students who are doing those things, it's as equally rigorous as the students who are four-year college ready. And we're really excited about that. And we're expanding and we're growing, and you saw it in the video. And access to college. So we talk about college ready. We really believe one of the best ways to measure that is how do students do in college level courses? And they do really well. And we broke it down by each school, kind of their signature practice. Wilsey Wood completed 430 college level courses last year through Solano College. So they had students walking across the stage getting their diploma and have an AA degree and are going to be a college sophomore or a college junior. Same with Buckingham, smaller school, 86 courses they completed. Really, just not only do they save their parents money, but they also really leave with a confidence that they know they can do college. They've navigated the system, they've done the classes, and they really do get it. At Vacaville High School, a little bit of an eye chart, but green is good. And you saw in the video they talked about outperforming California and the world, and this is what they're talking about. The percentages in those where you see green are higher than the state of California or the world in terms of AP tests. So great job there. Again, also leaving and going in as a college sophomore or a college junior in many cases.
Can I just make a comment about
Yes.
that? I find that data amazing. I'm just really excited about that, and I don't think we celebrate it enough. And when we were at Markham presenting this, I pointed out to the teachers at Markham, the SPICE teachers, that we've got like 97% in the Spanish, in the AP students that passed the Spanish exam. And I think a lot of that does have to do with the SPICE, the dual immersion, their success.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. And then we also looked at a 10-year look at our four-year college ready rate. And again, a little bit of an eye chart, but over 10 years, we went from pretty low numbers of students who are four-year college ready. And you can see the dotted line is what the state has done, which is really incredible too, to see the state improve by that much. But our schools really, really shot up. And that's hundreds of students each year who are four-year college ready. And again, we're excited if they choose a junior college to save some money and go that route. We're excited if they go in the military or career, but this is about skills to us. And we really think if they have this or they have that CTE completer, they really do have skills at a higher level. So we're looking at our goals. We're working on the portrait of a graduate, which are the future-ready skills that we as a community want our students to have. And we're going to build on our successes and overcome whatever challenges are in our way and really get a focus area as we go into next year. Questions?
Very nice. Any questions?
I was teasing you.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. Here we go. We'll go.
Good job, Ben.
Michael.
Thank you. Could you go back to slide 16, page 16?
Yes.
Yeah, right there. So when I saw this before, I was looking at it and I just thought, so what happened where, I don't know when exactly that was because I don't see years on the bottom.
It's on the bottom. Starts at 2009, 10.
Okay, so 2011, 12 to last year, that the spread opened up between Vaca High and Wood in the A through G.
Say it again. So between.
So right now there's a 15% spread, and there was like no spread back in 2011. So I'm kind of wondering like what happened.
It was really a focus earlier for Vaca High than it was for Wood, and then they have jumped on more recently and really made some great gains. And it's a different school with different students. When you look at the low income percentage at Wood, it has gained much higher. In fact, in some ways, they've done a great job in the last few years to get up to where they are as their percentages of their demographics change. But it was, so I know what happened at Vaca High. I was principal then, and I found this number and I went, oh my God, that's terrible. Like, we can't be at 20 some percent. That's just not it. And we made that that and AP became our focus. And again, at that time, that was right when money was really bad. So we just started putting some things in place to support that. And then we'll see what also did. And in the next few years, I predict that you're going to see Buckingham's go higher than all of them.
Okay. Tracy.
So I just have a couple. And if it's not right, this isn't the right place, it's okay. So interdistrict agreements.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why the light bulb hadn't gone off. That's such a huge number. I mean, it's impressive. It's really, it also makes me go, is there an opportunity there? Do we have the authority or discretion to maybe tighten up how many people we let in to create space for people who are here? So we have people having to not go to their neighborhood school. But I'm not talking about for students who are already currently enrolled here. But like moving forward, do we have the discretion to change that policy to protect district kids who want to go, right? And I don't know the grades and stuff. So you're tracking what I'm trying to ask you. Or is that not the right?
Well, we certainly could. Some of this, so a good chunk of them are at Buckingham. So we want that to keep them 500-600. So
I'm outside of charters.
Okay.
Or do we know how many of the 844 are charter?
Yeah, I actually have it.
Of course you do.
I believe.
Buckingham's about 200.
I believe Buckingham's for this year.
That's a good question.
So Buckingham's 219. Kimmy's 26.
So we still have a 500 spread.
Yes.
Of kids outside of our district. That feels like an opportunity moving forward because families, I can understand now.
So, and then there are still quite a few of them that are secondary students, so that's not impactful. So it's Vaca High and Wood, and so that's good. And then remember with our interdistricts, we also have an opportunity if it doesn't feel like a good fit, if there are issues regarding discipline, attendance, those kinds of things, we can say no then to a student as well and send them back to their home district. So these are students who are doing very well here.
I don't want to get rid of anybody who's here. I'm just
Okay.
looking at opportunity for solutions. Anyway, just,
Mhm.
but then the other question I had was, don't be mad at me.
I won't.
As great as the like I'm super proud and happy with the intervention programs. I've also been on the other side of the fence and I've heard, I'm wondering how we're measuring student response to intervention. So if I just use my own child as an example, one year we had a great response and we had data that showed that he increased. And we have another time where it was like, nobody's paying attention, we're doing this intervention, but nothing's changing. But no one's talked to me as a parent. So I'm certain that like, we're gonna make mistakes and nothing is perfect.
Right.
But I'm just wondering across the district, how we're quantifying if the intervention is working generally for most kids.
So, great question, and I think we've sort of always used grades as sort of that tracking, but that's not necessarily a great tracker. I think especially at the elementary level, we're going to see more precise data as we look at the NWEA results that Ryan did the presentation last time on. It really gives us growth as how students are doing, so we can look in an intervention, did they grow during that period? I mean, it's really going to be more precise, and I know that Kelly Birch looked at that with the middle school the other day, and they're going to start using that. So we need some tools to be able to measure specific skills, and I think this gives us an opportunity to do that.
And I know that the RTI coordinators at every site are very data focused.
Yes.
They
And I'm
keep a
asking
lot
with
of
the
data
intent
on
of
that.
Working on
Yes.
the next round of LCAP.
Right.
If this is an area where there's an opportunity,
Mhm.
like keep what's good, change what maybe needs improvement,
Right.
like that's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
like,
no,
the
I
question.
appreciate that. And what I could do is pull some samples and send them to you as a board of some of the data that our RTIs collect, just to show samples, because they're pretty detailed on how, and he's right, we also use NWA. But that is a good point for the next LCAP.
Absolutely.
Which feeds into my last question, I promise. For the increase in students who qualify for an IEP, are we going to have data to explain what the profile of those students look like? The reason I ask is because I feel like as we're doing more intervention, we're catching more kids who might have lower hanging fruit or really high need, right? Like, so the good and bad with that is, are there opportunities outside, like behavior? Oh, Shasha's here. Like behavior.
I was just going to call her up.
No, you don't have to come up, but you can.
Wanted to hear what I'd say.
Behavior modification programs, right? To keep
Right.
a kid who doesn't need an IEP,
Right.
this like alternative, but still give them what they need to succeed. But then also the testing. I got to tell you, I'm curious to see how it plays out because my son on a computer test, it's a 50-50 bag of whether or not he's going to do as well taking that test on the computer or on paper and pen, even just spelling.
He does better on which?
Most of the time the computer, but he's in 5th grade. Forgive me, Cody. But he writes like a 2nd grader, but he can type like almost as fast as me sometimes.
That's what he's saying.
He doesn't care. But the point is, it's an interesting paradigm that I don't know we've ever been in before, and I'm just curious to see how that's affecting student outcomes on tests.
So I'll answer the special ed piece. We are trending upwards in our students with disabilities, and that's tracking similarly in the state, the district, and nationally as well. We know sort of anecdotally some of those trends are an increase in autism. We're also, though, seeing sort of, I prefer to think of it as right sizing with our then reduction in students with intellectual disability. So I think previously we were naming it that, but maybe it was autism. So that's sort of leveling out. But we are seeing, and this is a big trend, an increase in speech and language impairment. I have lots of theories on that one, but I'm sure you can think. No, I didn't say it, but yeah, we're not communicating with our kids, and they're not getting as many language opportunities anywhere as we had 20 years ago. So there are definitely some trends, and we do track that. We track all student eligibility by age, grade, and eligibility codes. I can get you that information if that's something you're interested in, but we're definitely seeing similar trends to our neighbors. Was there a second part of that question? Or
No, it was just the whole testing thing, and which may not be the right place, but this is all, the point is to ask so we can have that data for the community, so you get anecdotal input, experience, and then real data, right? To inform how you build the LCAP, or if we even have a solution or something available. So that's, thank you.
Okay, Shelley.
Is mine on? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Just curious, because I know we've been working on making sure that our AP classes are represented across all the demographic
Yes.
materials, and so are we moving there?
We are moving in that direction. I can get you what last year's was. It is getting much closer to what our schools look like.
Great.
So that's been really exciting.
Not
And
only taking it, but passing it?
taking it and passing it,
Good.
yes. And I love walking through AP classes and just, it looks like every other class.
That's
So
marvelous. I'm
it's
so
really
glad to hear
exciting.
that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And I have to give our AP teachers just a lot of shout outs. They're here on a lot of Saturdays. There's a lot of Saturday work, and our students and teachers work super hard to prepare for that test, and they do a great job, and they're very inclusive. They want more and more students in their class taking the test, so they're not trying to select out.
It's kind of a shout out to the whole district, though, because when you think about they've got to come up through the
Yes.
ranks, and if they fall behind anywhere on their way, they don't get there. So I
Exactly.
really feel like we've made so much growth.
I'll give a quick shout out to Mrs. Moe. When she was an English teacher, she was our 10th grade teacher of English learners, and she would every year drag 3 or 4 of them into her AP language class the next year, and they'd be super successful. So it's that kind of commitment.
Thank you.
Sean.
So, thanks, by the way. That's an excellent presentation. I kind of have a question around, I mean, I want to preface this by saying that I think the mental health supports that the district has put in place are fantastic, and I think it's really a model that I hope other districts look at, because I think it's critical. But having said that, you know, kind of along the lines of what we heard tonight from the student that came in, I'm just wondering how we are looking at and separating out true mental health issues. And I understand there's some correlation and overlap, but there's also, at least in my view and people that I've talked to, there can be sometimes more of a behavioral component in an accountability issue that some of these students might be bringing into the classroom, which can lead to the behavior that we heard about tonight. And that's not necessarily, I mean, it can be mental health, but I think accountability and really focusing on behavior. I mean, how can we look at that in the sense of in a school environment? I realize the district is not a parent, but at the same time, we're having to deal with behaviors that sometimes can endanger other students and staff, and it's not just a mental health outburst that maybe needs, you know, a clinician. It might be something that there's accountability like. So I don't know how do you look at that? How do you quantify that? If that's even something.
Yeah, no, that is great, and I think the best news is our administrators know which students have mental health issues, and we don't jump to just that's the cause of these things. One of the things that's really been tricky for us as we go into the LCAP and when we look at the dashboard, for those of you who were there yesterday, is the idea of the suspension rate, right? So we don't want to over suspend students because we know if they're not in class, they're not learning, and we don't want to single out a particular group and suspend more. But also we don't want to create an environment that isn't safe for other kids to learn. So it's really a balance, and we've been really careful with our administrators not to say, you know, get your suspension rate down, don't suspend. I mean, sometimes that's the right answer, and you know, they just really have good instincts, and we have a great relationship with Vacaville Police when they need to be brought in, and you know, we want to keep our schools safe, and so students can move around and learn. And so there's still some sort of law and order going on and discipline happening, but taken into account too, if we have students with issues that we know and are working with, that factors into, and sometimes that's why sometimes it feels sort of uneven or people aren't sure. But again, our teachers, our administrators, our mental health clinicians sort of know which is which. And sometimes it's a student with a mental health issue that just still does something wrong.
And I think I was just going to add that that was one of the reasons we had that behavior committee made up of teachers and other staff as well as administrators. And Sasha referred to that because when we talk about the MTSS system, the multi-tiered system of supports, I think it includes not just mental health, but addressing behaviors. Sometimes behaviors are based on mental health, but sometimes not. And that is really important when we move into our next LCAP, is what supports are we going to put in place, as well as mental health, but addressing behavior, classroom management, site management of students.
Trauma-informed instruction.
Trauma,
I mean,
dealing, yeah.
You know, we have more students who are
great
coming to us with different types of trauma, and so we just have to keep adjusting to who our community is.
And I think I'll just kind of conclude by saying I think I'm not suggesting that it should be all enforcement. I mean, it says the career cop, but I think the other thing that I just, and I'm not saying this is happening, but I think I'm going to get real politically incorrect here, so maybe everyone's just scoot away from me for a minute. But one of the things that the dashboard I think can do is sort of make, if I was an administrator, I'd be fearful if I have a student who falls in a particular subgroup who's acting out in a way that that is behavior focused. I mean, we need to make sure that we're protecting all students. And again, I'm not saying that that's not occurring, but I think the dashboard certainly can put school districts and administrators in a situation where they're more inclined to try to handle certain situations differently than others, and that isn't always best for the school climate. So I appreciate your response. Thank you.
Good news on that dashboard, it's really hard to measure in terms of it's a real calculation. So our administrators really, other than knowing kind of who some students are, they really can't figure it out. And we tell them not to worry about it. Just do your job, and let's talk about situations. Let's look for alternatives to suspension. Always a great idea. I know some of the high schools are using sort of social suspension. So they didn't do something bad enough to get suspended, but they say for 2 weeks you can't go to games and rallies and dances and things. You're sort of cut out from the fun stuff for a little while. So that's another way to look at it. But yeah, it's tricky.
Mr. Silva.
Thank you. Good presentation. Kickstarting the LCAP season.
Yes.
Yeah, I think like for the suspension issue, I think how I would interpret that is that we're holding students accountable for their actions, and I think that's important at all levels, holding them appropriately accountable, and I think building that trust with the families, with the student body, everything I've seen has been echoed. So as far as being effective in that area, so. I mean, personally, that's just how I would interpret it, is how we're holding students accountable. Right. I just kind of echoing off of my colleagues. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you for bringing up about serving our students in our district first. Hadn't quite thought about it from that way. That all said, I think really the focus would be not to again find ways to expand. I know we've talked about that. I think it's an honor and privilege to be able to welcome students from outside, and how do we best offer that quality education to people outside, even our district, that have a desire to come here. Seeing those numbers is really encouraging because I mentioned to most of y'all that I was working with city and county in my role as a professor on how to recruit more biotech type firms here. And one of the comments from one of these focus committees, or whatever they call them, was that, we got to improve our schools. A lot of people are leaving our schools. I'm like, well, for certain families that that's their choice. And that's if they feel there's a better option for their kid, that's fine. But our stats don't show that. Statistically, we're increasing, and now I got some numbers to throw out. So, so I'm happy to hear that, and so I think it's just a matter of how we communicate that and kind of change that narrative. With all that said, I guess just so 2 quick points or additional points is just going back to science in elementary. So I'm just seeing a possible correlation with the lack of having, and I understand the challenges behind, just to highlight that. But I see, so so I'm just looking at biology, chem, calculus, as far, sorry, I'm looking at, let me reference, slide 15. So, titled Graduate Outcomes, Access to College, Biology, Chemistry is Low, U.S. History, not sure what's happening there. But biology and chemistry. I'm just seeing maybe I know we have we have a lot of people looking at how to implement something, but for me personally, I think maybe where the city's trying to go and where our future career jobs, another niche is in this field, and so I guess maybe at some point I'd like to hear some maybe update on where we're at with science in elementary and whatever challenges that we also need to address.
That, oh, I'm sorry. I was going to just say that's a great idea. And this is also something to keep in mind as we start to talk about the LCAP is because again, the LCAP, we're aligning resources if we want to, if the board wants to put something in there around science or elementary science.
So I have good news too on that front. Yesterday, we had a training for 20 high school science teachers. UC Davis came and did it. It was in this room. It was electric. These teachers were super excited about the training they were getting. But what feedback I got from it is they want to set up a system where the high school teachers and the middle school teachers get together and talk about what they're doing, what they're seeing missing, kind of all the way through, so they can then talk to the elementary science coordinator about the types of things they see that kids, if they could learn this in elementary, that would really be helpful. So we are start articulating through each of the levels to see, and the high school teachers are super excited about getting together with the middle school teachers and sort of building like, what do we have and what do we need?
Great. That kind of actually falls into my next question. If there are any district-wide efforts to address equitable issues or any disparities in data across the board from the whole K to 12 system across the district, are there any efforts on that? Or I can update it later, which is fine.
I mean, really, what we're looking at is wherever our gaps are. So math is still a gap, and so we're looking there in science. How do we create more opportunities for more students to learn? And I always, when we look at any of the data, and when we look at AP data or the A through G data, the second thing after just looking at these general numbers, I'd look at how specific groups did. And to me, one of the best groups to look at is the socioeconomically disadvantaged, because that captures, it's a big enough number and captures a lot of students. And so how are they doing in a particular area or a particular test, and then seeing what we need to do about it.
And just one more quick point, and I guess it's really the only maybe true criticism I have tonight. When we're talking about CTE and AP, I always have to define that for people, what that means, and I think that's another challenge with those, especially with biology. I became a biology major in college later on, but I don't think I even passed it in high school. And I think part of it is the traditional way of teaching is, okay, memorize all this terminology, when really needs to be more hands-on. The challenge with being more hands-on is it's more costly. Yeah.
I'd love to take you and see some biology that happens now, because they use the EMBER program through UC Davis, and it really has changed how we do, but we're not memorizing things.
Good.
So
Thank you.
anytime I'd love to take you by and see.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Fantastic. One question for me. It shows that we're losing about 175 students heading out of the district. Do we have any idea why?
Yes. The biggest chunk of that is between us and Travis, in terms of some of the people who live sort of on our side but maybe are part of the base and want to go there, they go over, or some of the people who are on their side but closer to us and want to come here. Some of it is just that. That's the biggest group we lose to.
The boundary issue more than anything else.
Is Travis and that.
Okay.
And we still get more in from them, but that's our biggest out.
All right. Very good. You don't have to apologize.
Wow. I was at a CSBA meeting or training, and they talked about ROTC as a means to add to robust. I guess that would be another request. Have we looked at? I know we talked about it in the past, but is there any way we can get maybe an update at some point about ROTC? I only ask that because I have had several members from the community, here and there, for the past couple of years actually talk about it. So.
Yeah, it has
If
come up
it's worthwhile.
And
I know
we
you guys
did
talked
talk
about it in the
about
past,
a survey, but I remember talking to you about a few years ago.
When I was principal, it would come up almost every year. I don't know if it's a huge number of people, but
Correct.
it would come up quite a bit. And we can look at adding
We
that.
can look at it and survey and see. I think there's a cost to it, but
If you feel
absolutely.
worthwhile further looking
Yeah,
into.
we can look into it. Yeah, it's come up frequently.
It does come up.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, Ed, thank you very much. One of your longer presentations is quite unusual for you, but educational as always. Certainly appreciate it. All right, 15B, Chief Facilities Maintenance and Operation Officer Dan Banowitz. Update on facilities project. Good evening, Mr. Banowitz.
Good evening, sir.
So 2 things before you get going. One is, did you change your name? Are you now
Yes, I am
Dan?
now known as Dan Manowitz. according
Manowitz,
to the
Dan
reporter.
Manowitz.
Yes.
All right, we'll get you some new cards and a new
Yeah,
name tag made up.
We'll
That'll
change
be
all that.
great.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just
I like
Jennifer
it.
Leonard actually just texted that to me during the meeting, that I didn't see it this morning. So.
And then the second thing I have is it appears to be it might be your birthday today. Is that
Yes,
by
I am.
chance
I'm an old
anything?
guy now. So
You don't have to share your age, but you know what? The
Oh, I don't
board
care. I'm
really
48 years old.
appreciates what you do. So we actually got you a gift.
Oh, okay.
So if you'd like to come up here, it won't explode or anything, I promise. You know, I can neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah, this is the John Jansen wrap up.
You definitely don't want to, make the board
Yeah, see, I'm
upset
just-
or anything.
You like t-shirts?
Yeah. Mr. Banners, you do need to take it out of the bag, please, and at least
This
show
will
the
not
audience.
be on my skin.
This will not be on my skin.
And a
Wow.
double extra large? Who bought this? Man, that's even worse than butchering my name. Wow. I can.
There we go. Can you stand out here so I can get a good picture of you, please? I know it may not touch any of your
Did you
skin,
happen
but
to see the score of the game yesterday? I know it's just spring ball, but it was 4-0
no, I
over
didn't
the
by
Giants.
chance. But happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm here to give you an update on what's going on. At Markham, we have completed the new pads. So behind the new classrooms and in front of the old portables, we had to remember we're raising up all those things 3 feet. So we had all that dirt come in, and we've got those pads set to go. So now we're going to start working on the foundations. Those buildings are being built. The modular buildings are being built right now at the factory, and they'll be opened up this summer, ready for school to start. And the MP room is progressing. They're still doing a lot of framing, and you can kind of see how big that building is now when you drive by. It's pretty impressive. Zanino Stadium, we're loving this weather. We just keep it like this because they're moving right along. They're actually they did the first lift of asphalt. They put the asphalt around underneath this because it's under the track is asphalt. So they were able to put the first one in. We're running ahead of schedule. They're actually moving in to put the second and final lift on there so they can get that done. The turf is being made now, and it'll be rolling out in the next couple weeks, and they'll start putting it together. So you're actually going to see green on the field in the next month. So we're moving right along out there. Sierra Vista. Unfortunately, when we moved to the front, we did find a couple more issues that were unforeseen. One was, it's actually comical at some point. When they took a cabinet off the wall, there was a pipe that was not behind the drywall. So they just cut the drywall in the shape of the pipe and then covered it with the cabinet. So that's not legal. And as we start seeing up in the ceilings, there's a lot of things that are up there that were not supported, how they should be supported, but we can't see it until you start taking the ceilings down and all that kind of stuff. So we're continuing to find those things. We're still going to get done in April, but it's just a matter of we just gotta we're done demolishing things now, so we know what we're up against. It's just we keep finding it. But we're still on track we're going to go a little beyond spring break. Unfortunately, it looks like so we'll move them over a weekend as soon as we're done there, and we'll be done completely with that project. The Buckingham project, I'll be bringing the schematic design for the 100 McClellan Street property next board meeting on the 19th, and then ask for a vote on that at the first board meeting in April. On the agenda tonight is the design firm's contract, Williams and Padden. That's on tonight's agenda for the tenant improvements at the 188 and 194 Bella Vista Road buildings. If that's approved, we will start site committee meetings. We have them scheduled to begin Wednesday afternoon with Ally and the sites and all the principals involved, all 4 of them, plus their committees, so we can nail down the complete scope of this, get these documents done, because we have to get this through. This actually goes to the city. It's not a DSA project for permits, so we can get it done this summer. Our next Measure A COC meeting is going to be next Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and we're actually going to meet at Markham so we can do a tour of Markham with the COC. Something else that's on the agenda later this evening is the Wilsey Wood Theater HVAC replacement. This is a 2010 unit. It's well over 2,000 pounds, and if approved, we will be hoisting that thing up with a crane over spring break to get that installed. And that's all I have for this evening. Any questions?
I want to make a comment. I think Sierra Vista and the staff at Sierra Vista and Markham have just been amazing in how they're dealing with the construction. Just amazing. Every time I go to Sierra Vista, something's moved. The office has moved. And I was there the day before yesterday, and there's temporary office here, and it's hard to get around. But I just can't believe how flexible the staff is and not complaining, no issues. I was at Markham this morning, went to read, actually got lost because they moved the fence along the path. Ran into a couple teachers that just cheerful, positive. Oh, it's this way now, Jane. But I'm just, it's really hard. If you've ever had your house worked on, it's really hard to live in construction. And I haven't heard a negative peep out of anybody. They're just rolling with it.
And if you think about Sierra Vista, we've been there for 4 years doing all the work that we've done out there. So they've been really great. I just admire both those, the way they're dealing with it. And they have great leaders at that site too. And thank you. You're welcome.
For everything you're doing, and happy birthday. And Tracy didn't see your shirt, so show Tracy. She missed it.
Thank you.
Come on, take it out again and show it. Hold it up against yourself.
I didn't see it. You hold it up.
Everybody see? You see?
Good.
Everybody see?
Good. Dan, go.
This should be notified
Yeah.
on Facebook.
Go in the bathroom and put it on. And
Wait a second. I got to think about this. Does my job depend on this or what?
You know when you run out of toilet paper.
Well, it's not a Yankees shirt, so it's not that bad. But that was fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. All right, item 16A, on to action items. Approval of the second interim report. Jennifer Stahlheber, Associate Superintendent of Business and Administration Services, will present the second interim report for 2019-2020. Good evening, Ms. Jennifer. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good evening, Board President, Board, Superintendent Shamia. Oh, was I doing that?
Did I? You're just trying to go like you're just ready.
Was that me?
That's it. That was a good report. Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, tonight we're here to discuss second interim, which is our budget adjusted as of January 31st. Budget cycles.
I don't know what's doing, it's the way it's set up.
Oh.
It's transitioning.
Oh, I didn't do that. I don't do fancy things. You guys know that. Maybe Kelly helped me. Oh, she's like, she's kind of fancy. I'm not. So our general fund revenues, you can see we had a significant increase in our LCFF, our local control funding formula, and that is due to an increase in our enrollment and an increase in our projected ADA. Since we prepared this data, though, we have seen some slight decreases in attendance, and we think it's related to the current events. So you might see some downward adjustments when we close the book. So just be aware of that. Our federal revenues, we saw some increases, and that was some adjustments to entitlements of our federal funds. Our state revenue, we saw an increase there. There were some lottery dollars for prior year adjustments that were not accounted for at first interim. Some CTIG current year entitlement increased as well. And our local revenues increased by $31,597, and that was due to some donations that we do not budget until they're received, one of which was a Genentech grant, some VPAF grants, and also we had some increases in interest earnings. And this just shows you the breakdown. So the bulk of our revenues are generated through the local control funding formula, with the second largest portion being our state revenue. Feel free to stop me if you have questions. And our expenditures, so we had very small adjustments in our certificated. We just slightly lowered it due to some extra duty hours based on the actuals to this point in the year. Our classified salaries increased due to some additional paraeducators that were hired, and also for special education. And there was some extra duty added for Title I at Markham. And in ed services for the low performing block grant, we had $5,000 in adjustments. Our benefits were a total decrease of $841. Part of that's related to the adjustments above, but we had really significant earnings on our trust for OPEB, and so we were able to lower the rate for the remainder of the year. So that's the bulk of that. Our books and supplies increased by $28,626, and that was related to those donations that come in. As those come in, we budget the revenue, we also budget for expenditures so the sites can spend those funds. And services increased by over $500,000, and that was related to some new speech contracts for special ed in the amount of approximately $153,000. We had some non-public school increases of $178,000, which we've since received some revised information, and I have a slide that'll have some information on that. And then we've had some additional contracted services. So transportation, we've had a shortage of drivers, and then we've had another driver that took an extended leave. And so we've had a contract with Michaels so that we have enough drivers, because we have our director driving almost every day, and we also have our transportation instructor. So we're really tight there. If you know anyone who wants to drive a bus, tell them to call us. And our capital outlay increased by $127. This was some CTID carryover funds that we budgeted that hadn't been budgeted previously. And then we also had some contract for hazmat services that increased, and that was related to the old district office that we're getting ready to demolish. And so this shows you the breakdown. And so our total salaries and benefits right now is projected at 82%. We know that'll increase by the time we close the books, because we typically have about $3 million in carryover, which would bring us back up to our normal about 85% for salaries and benefits. And so this is the general fund summary when you're comparing from first and second, and you can see we because we increased revenues, lowered expenditures, we show the fund balance is projected to be higher than we had at first interim. We also changed some of our assigned funds, and that's related to restricted dollars being budgeted for expenditures in the current year. And then we also have the board required reserve, our reserve for economic uncertainty, and then we have some unassigned funds. But in total, we're projecting a 12.69% balance. And these are our planning factors, and most of these come from the dartboard from School Services of California. Some also, though, come from Department of Finance and the Legislative Analyst Office. And then we use some historical data for our health and welfare and for special ed excess costs. And so this is our original multi-year projections, which were included in our SACS documents that will be sent on to the county office. And so originally we projected deficits in all 3 years. We know that the current year has approximately $3 million in carryover that every year typically falls out. A lot of that are site dollars that the sites have future plans for, so they don't spend them all. And so somewhere we didn't spend dollars we received in that current year, but because we're pretty much experiencing the same level of carryover every year, we are expending most of the dollars we're budgeting in the current year, if that makes sense, right? Because otherwise we'd see more fluctuation in that. In those out years, we had projected a 2.5 and a 2.1, but I have another MYP, which is on the next chart, and that's because there was been a lot of changes to some of the data we used after we were already done building our model. So I'm gonna go to that slide. So in this slide, things look much better. And so typically when I prepare an MYP for negotiations purposes, I pull that carryover out, because I don't want us to make a decision on information that isn't fully accurate. Even though we have it budgeted and it could be expended, we know that we typically will not expend all of those funds. So I backed that out in the current year, $3 million. I adjusted that out of expenditures. But we also have since found out that our non-public school placements, we've had a decrease in our projected expenditures of $200,000. And then we also have currently $857,000 in vacant positions that we don't believe will fill before the end of the school year. And even if we did, it wouldn't spend all that $857 because that's projected for an entire year's salary. So in those out years, I was able to carry over that NPS decrease because we had kept that in expenditures and just increased for inflation purposes. But I also left in the decrease for the vacant positions. And part of that is tied to some of the other adjustments we made in 2021 and 21-22. So we know we have our final SERP count, but we don't have the final number of what our actual savings will be. And that's because it's dependent on how many of those positions are filled with teachers that are, have a lot of years of experience or have low levels of experience. So Chris and I discussed, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, we discussed we wanted to be more conservative. So we used a replacement salary of about $65,000. Our beginner teacher salary is $50,000, but we increased the level of credit that we will give VTA members this last year in negotiations. So we thought we'd be more conservative. We averaged it at $65,000, which I don't remember which sale, but it was 4 or 5 years and additional education services or credits. When we take that number and we look at our savings, we generate a savings and expenditures of approximately $1.3 million, and then we have a 5-year payment for the SERP plan, and that I added in those out years of $636,000. So when you net all of those adjustments, that's what our MYP looks like, which is pretty amazing. Good. And I think a lot of it's attributed to the work we've been doing.
Yeah. One question, Tracy.
It's like so good. I'm tracking, but like, wait, where's the whammy? Like, so, because we don't have that slide in our packets.
It's attached.
Oh, okay. So it's not in my paper. I didn't. Okay. So this, I just wrote it down.
Well,
Yeah,
we found
it was-
out so much information.
I think it was updated like, I'm not sure, I think it was updated
Monday.
No,
Monday.
It's
and you
fine.
probably
So
printed it
that
out.
I just wrote down the numbers because if this is the real picture,
Well, as of right now.
I know everything is changeable.
Right.
But
Like
if-
yesterday, I found out that our insurance premium will increase $120,000 approximately, and that is not in here.
This is a huge testament to not only all the great variables, like the perfect storm to make things look well, but now we really know where everything is. And so it feels like, oh, like the light bulb for me is going off now because there's not this extra stuff. Like we know exactly where the money is.
And I think
And
Kelly
you're
and I
making
have a
really
much
good choices.
higher level of confidence in being able to project where we're going to see adjustments. We were learning the budget. We were learning how do we spend our dollars in Vacaville? What are our trends? And the old data wasn't always great because we found some practices that we needed to correct. And I know you recall my first year, I think every time I brought a budget, I had to explain why something drastically changed. And it was just because we corrected how we booked it in our general ledger. So it's been a lot of work by everyone. We have an amazing team. Yep.
Thank you for doing all that.
Here's our charter schools. And so Buckingham does have a deficit, but it's planned deficit spending. They have added that robotics building that they're leasing, so that increased some expenditures, and they had over almost $120,000 in electrical repairs to make it ready for the robotics program. They'll be sharing that with Vaca High, but they would have gone forward without Vaca High, so they are paying for the expenditures related to that. They also had some adjustments due to those increases that we gave VTA, that not all of them were in their books when we did first interim. Fairmont also had some adjustments, but they show a surplus. And Greg really is trying to spend his money. He has some plans to do some improvements there because he's like, that's a really significant fund balance, and let's spend it on where we have some needs. So I know he's really looking at his budget for where their high-level needs are and use some of that fund balance. We did lower their supplies and some of their conference budgets, so that's part of why you see that surplus. And then Kimmy has a very small deficit. which is great because they have seen a little bit of a decrease in their attendance rate, which lowered their local control funding formula revenues. So the fact that it's only a little over $1,500 is great news. And typically, you know, we do see some dollars fall out from extra duty subs, those type of budgets. And so our adult education has a deficit, and that's due to funds being returned to the county office. We were serving as the consortium member. We had funds for professional development. The consortium has changed its structure, and so those funds are going back to the county office now. Our Child Development Fund, which is our newly established fund, those funds come in and we spend them all. Our Fund 13, Child Nutrition, we're projecting a surplus, and Juan does have some plans and some really awesome ideas. So by the time we close the books, you probably won't see all of that there, but we won't see a deficit. And I don't know if you've heard, but Sierra Vista now is 100% scratch made. Everything. Wow. If you haven't been there. It's pretty amazing. Like roasted vegetable Napoleon with homemade sauce, like amazing stuff. So our next classified leadership team meeting, we're having lunch at Sierra Vista.
That's great.
What?
She wants to
Um,
ask a question.
so-
1 second, please. Thank you, Miss Stacy.
I just have a question. I think this is our place. So, do we have a line item for PPS billing, for Medi-Cal billing? Because I've never been able to assess how that looks in the budget.
Yeah, we do 5640, right? Yeah, it has its own resource.
Off the top of your head.
That's pretty impressive.
You're right.
I know. Would you
She
like?
made it up.
Would you like a
No.
budget report?
Right.
No, I was
have.
just,
We can
It's in
send
the
you a
books.
report.
that's
what I
fine.
had to verify.
That's cool.
Yeah, we could pull by resource.
Thank you. Our building fund, that is related to the Markham project. And so we had the issuance last year, and now we're spending those dollars. And so we expect to see that deficit. And our capital facilities fund, that is developer fees. And we do have some of the funds being spent on Markham. We supplemented that project with $5 million. And some of it had been spent last year, with the remainder of it being spent in the current year. So our county schools fund, this is that fund we mentioned at first interim that we had to open because we had a retrofit project at Jepson that we were reimbursed for. We had to receive the funds in Fund 35, and then we were able to transfer them to offset the expenditure in the fund in which it had occurred. So that's why it's zero now. Fund 40, that's our where we pay for our certificates of participation, which bought this building, and those are our RDA funds that Dante's presented on several occasions. Our Fund 51 is our GO bond, and that is handled by the county. And so we just post entries when we close our books. And Fund 71 is our retiree benefit fund, and that's where our other post-employment benefits are sitting. And because we had such strong earnings early in the first several quarters, we were able to lower our OPEB to zero for the remainder of the year. And then Fund 73 is the foundation fund. Vicki was able to locate some of the scholarship documents, and so we still have a couple we haven't found backup documentation for, but Kelly and I are working so that we can get those scholarships out to students. We just need to do it in the appropriate manner. And so we are gonna certify positive, but I wanna share with you that we have several districts in the county, one of which is now certified as a negative certification. We also have a district that's gone into qualified status. And so at a recent event I attended, I saw a school services individual, and I asked her, I said, what are you projecting for second interim as far as certifications? And she said they have met with FCMAT because they believe they're gonna see a lot of negative and qualified districts come in. And they know that FCMAT doesn't have enough staff to go out there and provide fiscal oversight for all of these districts they believe are gonna need it. So we really need to give ourselves credit for the work we've done over the last couple of years. We've had really difficult decisions to make, but we've done pretty amazing things as well. We've been able to give our staff increases every year. So I went and pulled from 14-15 to the current year, And from 14-15 to 19-20, we've given over 17.5% in ongoing salary increases. It's amazing with the increases we're experiencing with STRS and PERS, the increases we're seeing in health and welfare, and the increases we're seeing in special education. And it's because we're making really tough decisions, we're being really prudent, we're finding ways to be efficient. You know, we closed down some departments, which was painful for some folks, but almost everyone went into another position that needed to be filled. And so I think we've done some really good things for the district fiscally that maybe other districts just haven't pulled the trigger and made those tough decisions, and that's why they're where they're at. So I appreciate that our board is so prudent, and you guys really, I've been around a lot of boards. I've done board study sessions. You guys are very knowledgeable. You always ask good questions. You care deeply, and that it makes a huge difference. Any questions on that situation?
1 second. Mr. Kitsis.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. You know, you and your department just do a really, really good job. I mean, in all the years that I've been here, there's been a coming to really understanding the numbers and the figures, and a confidence in them that really has never been there before. And I'm talking like 16 years, never been there. So I give you all and Kelly, everybody, a lot of credit for doing that. And, you know, it's kind of a sad commentary that, I mean, things were really rough before 14, 15, you know, and then, but after that with the LCFF, there was a lot of money, a big injection of money. And the fact that there are so many districts going into negative means that they really didn't take care of it, you know, and I do give everybody credit here for you know, paying attention to that and taking care of it. So thank you.
I would like to make a couple comments on it. Can you go back to slide 10, the multi-year? I want to first of all acknowledge Jennifer and Kelly Burks, the amount of work and, I mean, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in really cleaning up a lot of processes in the business off it. Really, checks and balances. There were things they had to clean up, even things on payroll. You find these little tiny maybe funds slipping out where they shouldn't go that they've really cleaned up. But I also want to remind the board that we made reductions the past 2 years in 18-19 and 19-20, because I was reflecting on that. And that was the assistant superintendent's executive cabinet, Jennifer, Ed Santa Padre, Sasha Bigel, and Chris Hewlett and I, spending a couple days sessions going over efficiencies in the district. We eliminated a director position, as you may recall, the special ed director, but we figured out a way to have coordinators be coordinator two and pick up the work. And to me, it was about becoming more efficient. We eliminated a staff secretary in my office and a staff secretary in Ed Santa Padre's in the educational services. And we figured out a way in my office, for example, took some things that we didn't necessarily need to be doing anymore. We made more efficient processes between Teresa and I. We moved a staff secretary over to pick up parts of that. So again, it wasn't just about, let's just make some cuts. It was about how can we be more efficient? How can we be better stewards of taxpayer resources and not just keep doing the same thing, but step back and go, wait a minute, are we doing the best thing? And treating this budget like it's our home budget. We looked at the warehouse and mail room. We don't need a warehouse or a daily mail, internal mail, because of email and online ordering. We eliminated, I wrote a list because I was kind of looking at this multi-year and I thought there's a lot to this, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and work that sometimes we don't forget, that we don't remember, but we don't forget. We also eliminated the school secretaries, the school city secretaries when we changed the way we did our formative assessments so we didn't have to use staff. We eliminated a position, a credit recovery position, by doing something a little different on how we do it at Will C. Wood. There were just kind of these pieces that we really cut. We cut over $1 million And so that's reflected here. And it, like I said, I think the most important thing to me is we looked at how can we do things more efficiently? How can we do things better? And how can we keep this away from the classroom? Because the fact is we made those cuts and there wasn't really effect felt on the students in the classroom. So I just wanted to tell my team how proud I am of all of us. But it is also a good-looking budget because of the revenue increase and the other changes. But it also represents a lot of work on leadership.
Shelley.
And I appreciate everything you just said, Jane, because I wrote down amazing leadership at the top and this whole cabinet making some great decisions for the district. And also you have to look at the schools and the culture and the principal leadership, which comes from you down to the principals, because our schools are a place kids want to be. The attendance has gone up. They pay attention to it. That's our ADA. The Saturday recovery is making those sessions worthwhile and those kids wanting to be there on a Saturday. And the fact that there's I think that children feel really a part of their community school, their chosen school, and that makes a huge difference. So, I mean, every aspect of this district, and you know, you talked 16 years, and I've seen a lot in 40 years, and and I can say that I think this district is in the best place it has ever been, psychologically, emotionally, relationship-wise, fiscally, and with leadership. To me, it's an amazing place. And when I came onto the board, I thought, but one thing I wanted to work on is making sure these things happened. And I didn't have to do that. I got picked at the right time. So thank you. Good job.
And I did want to add thanks to all of you. You really did support us in these tough decisions and gave us some guidance or some changes. You really did. And Jennifer's right. I know we're having a love fest here, but I really it's a little bit much. But
Let's go.
You really are mindful of the budget as well and support us when we have to make hard decisions and trust us.
Michael.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to just acknowledge a couple things. First of all, Shelley, I want to acknowledge you for owning that you're old.
Heck, my birthday's this month. I'm the old one on the board.
That's very, very impressive. I always respect that about you.
I am old.
Yeah.
Just iron my face. I look like I did when I was little.
Jane, you mentioned a couple of times blood, sweat, and tears, and I'm really hoping there wasn't too much blood. Just sweat and tears, okay. So the one thing that struck me when you were talking actually was, I think one of the main things we have going for us in this district is that we're not too big and we're not too small. You know, we're not too small, so we have an economy of scale, and that's really important. So one little thing doesn't kill us. We can kind of adjust things pretty easily, and we're not too big, so it's not like steering an iceberg, you know. And we can monitor things really quickly, and we're very close to the line. You know, we're not these layers and layers, layers. I think both those things serve us very well.
You're right.
So, thanks.
One question. What? I'm the last to speak. Attendance. You talked earlier that with the current issue going on, is there a way of recouping that or tracking that, and knowing that these kids are out for this reason and gaining back some of that money? And would the state declaration of emergency help us in that, or what's your thoughts?
We are tracking it and we are looking at it, but you have to have more than a 10% decrease when compared to your average attendance rate, and we haven't seen that big of a decrease. So we wouldn't have the opportunity to recover any of those funds for the lost ADA. But we are looking at it. Kelly's like daily calling me in panic mode.
Okay.
See how she gets like this when she talks about
2%. What account code is that?
Oh, but
5179. Okay,
and
got
independent
that.
study numbers are up, so hopefully, you know. Yeah.
That's a good thing.
So here's the deal for me. It's trust from all of you, your team members, everything. If we didn't trust you, we wouldn't be able to make the decisions that we made. If the bargaining groups didn't trust you, we wouldn't be in the position that we are with negotiations and how we've been over the time period. I think the board's been very wise to take all of your recommendations and move on the ones that we think are appropriate. And that's mostly all of them, right? Because we trust you so much and we take that information and move forward with it. I just encourage us to continue that work ethic and that process. I like our savings account, but we all know it only takes one or two little things and that thing goes away. So we need to continue to be prudent when we do our business. But you and your team make the budget so easy to understand. And what we did have before in the past, it was like, what's this fund do? And what does this do? And I think that was the nice thing of having some new board members come on, and they would look at the budget and go, what's this? And we'd all go, I don't know. We kind of take it for granted, right? So it made us all look at the budget a little bit easier. But it's so easy. It's so, you give the Ed report of budget, right? And we all now know how Ed talks, and it's to the point, concise, and it's informative and entertaining. I never thought budget would be entertaining. So, but please, to everybody, keep up the good work. I'm so happy that we're in the position that we are in the county with compared to other districts, and that we should continue to strive that way and provide the level of service that we do to our customers, which are our kids. So, kudos to all of you. Did you want to talk again?
Well, summary next steps. We're going to have our positive certification. We're going to maintain our reserves and monitor all of our costs. We're going to attend May Revise, May 19th. We're going to adjust our projections of budget development to account for our CERP savings. We're going to planning to meet our facility needs. So that's been coming up a lot. You know, Dan and I, when we came in, there was no 5-year maintenance plan. And so now that we've been creating that, and Dan and his team have worked really hard to assess our needs, we have quite a few needs. So that's one of the items we want to budget for. And if you recall, when we closed the books and at budget development, we assigned a lot of dollars for those purposes, which is the perfect way to spend one-time dollars. That's how you spend fund balance. And then also planning for possible facilities expansion. So I think that's going to have a lot of our attention in the near future. And that's it, unless you have any other questions.
Seeing none, thank you again.
Okay, thank you.
So recommended action, it's requested the board approve the 2019-2020 second interim report as presented.
Oh, probably second.
I have a motion by Sean, second by Tracy. Student board member advisory vote.
Thank you.
Brand, thanks for hanging out. That's great. And a board member advisory vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes. All right. 16B, approval. It's requested that the board approve resolution number 2019-2020, authorization for deletion of the Eritreal Corporation of designation of specific systems, products, and or materials, and the addition of the Toro Company specific systems, products, and materials in specification district construction projects. And yeah, it is. And this is a okay.
You ready?
Did you have a question?
You sure? Don't hold it back. Hold it back. Okay. We heard it. Hold it back. Do you want to know why or something? Or what?
Is there a place? I guess I'm sorry. I do. You guys can call me names later. Or no.
Hold on.
I meant to email.
It's okay. You want to know why we're doing this? Is that the question?
You can
There
give
we
that
go. Go
short
ahead.
answer.
Okay. Yeah.
That's not what I was asking.
So, as
Well,
part
then
of
don't answer
as
it
part
if
of
you're
this
not
bill
gonna ask
of
it.
Measure A and even Measure V, the board approved our facility design standards. Was that really big book?
Right.
And what that does is it allows us to single source items. So we get, that's how we can do this legally, is that we say that we are using this product and there is no known equal. Because a lot of times what happens is it'll say, for example, our carpet is Armstrong or equal. Well, and then the contractor will come back and say, well, I'm going to give you this one. It doesn't save us any money. It saves him money, and it's not equal.
You
So that's why and we want to just make it. Unfortunately, every time I want to make a change to a product or a system, we have to do this resolution to make that change.
So that was
So
my
that's-
question. If it was
yes.
in relation to this idea, then now we can
Yes.
just.
Yep, that's it.
Get my mic to work. Okay, I'm gonna hold it down. Mr. Wyndham, your vote, please.
Yes.
Mr. Kitsis?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mrs. Stacy?
Yeah.
Mrs. Dally? Yes. And Mr. Jansen?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's requested that the board authorize a vote for candidate, I do believe it'll be Mr. Silva, correct? Yes. Very good. For the CSBA Delegate Assembly, Subregion 3C, for the term of April 1, 2020 through March 31st, 2022.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Kitsa, second by Wyndham, all in favor?
Yeah.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Perfect, passes. It's recommended or requested that the board approve the agreement with William and Payden Architects and Planners Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $140,000 for the 188, 194 Bella Vista Road improvement projects.
I'll second it.
All right, moving by Ms. Tracy, a second by Mrs. Dally on, perfect. Student board member advisory votes. All in favor? Yes. Fantastic. Board member votes?
Yes.
Any opposed? Perfect. Hearing none. Consent calendar, number 17. So do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar? Motion by Silva, second by Wyndham. Student board member advisory votes? Fantastic. Board member vote, all in favor? Yes. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. Passes. We have one informational item. The elementary leadership team has approved the submission of the attached list of supplemental instructional materials for the board consideration. These materials are recommended for adoption as supplemental instructional materials as indicated on the attachment list and will be agendized for approval at the next regular governing board meeting on March 19th, 2020. Future business, our next meeting is March 19th, 2020, and the second one to follow, April 9th, 2020. No need to go back into closed session. We're all done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.